Alright guys, here we are. It is the fourth place match of CALLOUS Invitational 4. We are all the way here. This is a colossal pairing between the Linear Curve, playing on the Linear Curtains, and McMegan slash Roro. Linear on the bottom with a standard Zapdos lead and a standard Meta lead on the top. But before we get too into the game, let's just make sure we are very clear as to what this match is and what the stakes are here. The winner of this match will get at least third place and can still potentially win the tournament. They will face the loser of the already played Undisputed versus Ban Manaphy match, which, spoilers, was won by Undisputed. So, the winner here will play against Ban Manaphy. The loser there will be out in third place, and the winner there will go on to face Undisputed in the grand finals, meaning in this game, the loser is out in fourth place on what we call the money bubble, meaning they will be the first player in the tournament, the highest finishing player in the tournament, to not make money, since this tournament does pay only the top three. And as you guys are well aware, we have a pretty hefty prize pool this year. We have by far the highest that we've ever had at $1,220 as of right now, and that can still go up as well. We are still taking donations, so if you guys want to last minute donate before we get to the third place match, the grand finals, all that good stuff, you can absolutely still do that and set the bar even higher for future years, which, I mean, it's unbelievable to me that this could possibly be beat, but we'll see. But anyway, because of the way that this is structured and because of the amount of prize money on the line, the loser here is out with nothing. The winner here is guaranteed bare minimum, even if they were to get only third place, 240 real dollars. So this match effectively has a bare minimum real life amount of 240 on the line as it is happening. And like I said, it could end up being even more than that if the winner here were to go on to place even higher than third, which is very possible. So now, with all that said, with the stakes and all that clearly established, let's get back into the game. Linear seems to have some kind of stallish team. Haven't actually seen Spikes yet, but Hari, Zapdos, Gengar looks fairly stallish. It could be a weird offense. Hariyama has seen a decent amount of use in this tour. Linear is certainly one of the guys that has liked it quite a bit. For Roro, having only shown 2 pokes, it's not crystal clear, but it certainly looks like either a physical or a mixed offense here. This could easily be some kind of like Meta, Lax, Mag, Salamence, T-Tar Water kind of situation. It also could still be a balanced team with like, say, Magdoll plus like a Coon and one other poke. Yet to be determined, but of note, this meta here does not have leftovers. We could very well be looking at a lead CB meta, and he now has to figure out if he's CB here, what does he want to do? Since he's obviously not going to be able to come in too many more times, he took the 63% focus punch there, which is the only damage he's taken, but it's heavy damage, and that's going to give him fewer opportunities going forward. It's actually Linear taking the time as well here, trying to figure out how to respond. If this is indeed CB meta, which it very well may be, it's not guaranteed. It could be Lum, it could be Pinchberry. But if we're looking at CB meta here, got to figure out, what's he going to do? Is he just going to boom here? Do I want to go to Gar? I don't want to switch Gar into a Meteor Mash, do I? Maybe I should go to Zapdos. Wait a minute, what if he Rock Slides? All that stuff going on in his head, trying to figure out what to do here. And Linear already in real time, taking over a minute with this decision. And I certainly, throughout the entirety of this match, cannot and will not fault anybody, given the stakes of this match, given the amount of real money on the line, also the prestige and the title. I know both players take this seriously and sincerely want to win this tour, so taking your time and trying to make the best possible decision is something that I absolutely respect and expect from these players. So, the verdict that Linear settles on is to go to Moltres, and it is Explosion, so that is just going to be an immediate one-for-one trade without the Moltres ever doing anything. And granted, the meta didn't ever do anything either, other than the Explosion. And that leaves us here. with the Gyarados coming in, which is an unusual choice, I think, for Roro, given the fact that we know that there's a Zapdos, and it's probably the most likely thing that's going to come in there. Zapdos is just a really safe thing to send in that kind of situation. And all of this information, the Metagross, the Lax, the Gyarados, the Celebi, there's got to be a Magneton for McMegan. There's just got to be. So I think we're going to be looking at a Mag in the back, and it's unclear as to whether Linear's going to have a Skarm or not. It certainly would fit, and it would give him kind of like a hybrid Superman team here. But Linear, once again, busting out the unconventional, non-meta, cannot recognize this structure team, as he's been doing throughout the tour. I'm not clear what he has here. It looked for a moment like a stall team, and then he showed the Moltres, and it looked like some kind of like hybrid Superman team. Maybe it's just like, Skarm, Swampert in the back. But now he's showing this Lax, and I genuinely am not clear as to what it is Linear's running. Just another creative, unpredictable team from Linear. This is one of the absolute strongest aspects of his game, and one of the things that makes him so difficult to play against, because he does build, even more so in recent times, in unconventional ways. This is not a team that I've ever seen before or that I recognize at all, and I would operate under the assumption that the same is true for Roro. So I really don't know. And Roro is going to have to do some guesswork and some theory crafting here as to what this team might have, what would make sense in this situation, and try to get to the bottom of it. He's got a Swords Dance Pass Celebi. Haven't actually seen the pass, but I mean, let's just be real here. It's obviously going to have that. And he's debating what to do. Linear kind of in the same boat. Does he want to just body slam here and fish for para? What if he doesn't get it? Does he want to blow up here and potentially blow up on not the right target? It's really interesting here, I think, for Roro to consider going to the Gyarados. I think that unless it's HP Rock, which it might be, and even then, even if it is HP Rock, maybe the Gyara doesn't have too much use in this matchup, given the Zapdos, the Gengar, and the Hariyama that might have Rock Slide, because remember, if the Gyara doesn't have HP Flying, it doesn't really do anything to the Hariyama, so maybe the Gyara doesn't have that much purpose in this matchup, so I think maybe if you're going to risk a poke here, perhaps that would be the one. Is it the worst thing ever if the Lax simply blows up and hits the Gyarados? I don't think so. And the other thing is, like, if Lax just goes for, say, Body Slam here, and it doesn't paralyze the Gyarados, well, that's pretty good. That leaves him in a good place, right? I mean, that gives him a +2 Gyara that's going to be faster than Lax, and just gives him a free opportunity to hit something pretty hard. So for me personally, I think I would baton pass to the Gyarados here if I were Roro. And the Intimidate on the Lax actually might matter a little bit as well, depending on what comes down. So that would be my play, but as a spectator who doesn't have access to the teams, who has not tested, and just flat out, even if I did have perfect information, I'm just not as good as these two players. So it's hard to know exactly what to do in any given situation, but just calling it as I see it, just calling it as a spectator right now with the same exact information that you guys have, that to me looks like the play that I would make. They're both really thinking about it. We're on turn 10, both of them dipping very low on their timer, 90 and 60 seconds respectively, and at least one of them is still using the time here, as we have not gone to the next turn just yet. But yeah, I think I would BP to Gyarados here if I were Roro. Here is the BP. They have decided on a turn, and Roro now has decided that, see, yeah, it's just going to be boom. He's going to lose his Lax. I get why he did that. It's a relatively safe play, because if it comes down to Lax on Lax, you've got a double boosted one, and the other guy doesn't. But for that exact reason, it getting self-destructed on, I think I like going to the Gyarados better there. I really do, because I'm having a hard time with what's left. I mean, let's say that the Gengar simply has Thunderbolt. We haven't seen anything at all from this Gengar, but let's just say it has Thunderbolt, as most of them, not all of them, but most of them do. In that scenario, with the Zapdos there, and with the Gengar probably having Thunderbolt, or at least having a high chance of having Thunderbolt, how good is the Gyarados really? I mean, what scenario are you going to set up where you're really, truly going to get value out of that Gyara? I don't know that you are. That sequence matters, however. It's going to be a Thunderbolt for 57% on the Hariyama. He's going to go for the Cross Chop to rock Magneton's hypothetical socks off. I don't think he wears socks, but the Cross Chop is going to miss, and the Magneton would then have the 2-hit KO opportunity on the Hariyama. Goes for it, obviously, but that is going to blank on the incoming Swampert. He gets out of the way, showing, or at least indicating, that he doesn't have HP Grass, and Hariyama comes back in. So we end up with Hariyama on Gyarados, the obvious switch here being the Zapdos, but either player could get cute. We do have ourselves a 4-4. It feels like Linear tempo-wise is a little bit behind at this moment, but I don't know, looking at the pokes remaining, that I love the inevitability aspect of this from Roro's perspective. I think the Zapdos is difficult to switch into. I think the Gar, if it has Ice Punch or Fire Punch, is difficult for the Celebi and potentially the Mag if it is in fact Fire Punch. We don't know the last poke from Roro, but it's totally possible that, given how ridiculously offensive this archetype is, the Swords Dance Pass archetype, that he does not actually have a proper special wall beyond that Snorlax that already died. So it might be difficult to switch into these special threats. And now Linear getting a crucial piece of hacks for him. After missing that cross chop, he now gets a full power on the Celebi here, not enabling it to do anything at all, and it must get out of the way. HP Bug, a real threat in that situation. Rock Slide there is a nice catch-all. It would have been a power flinch opportunity on the Celebi should it stay, or it would hit the Gyara should it go, which is exactly what happened. And Rock Slide 41% is going to hit the Gyara, but of course the Zapdos is going to be the immediate response here. And this late game, I'm going to keep harping on this. This late game really just may come down to McMegan going to the lax on that one crucial turn instead of the Gyarados. The Gyarados feels so useless here. It just isn't doing anything and just doesn't seem to have a lot of purpose. But the lax, if it were still alive in this situation, the thing was at like 100% when it got blown up on, I believe. I'd have to scroll up. But it was very, very healthy at the time. Where's that self-destruct turn? Yeah, 92 the thing was at. I mean, yeah, I don't know about all that. I just think the Lax would have a lot of value. It died from 92%. It would be very helpful in this situation. The Gyarados does not seem all that helpful in this situation. I really do think if Roro should go on to lose this game, which is not guaranteed at this point, but if that is the case, I think he's going to have only himself to blame, and that's going to be the one play that he goes back and really kicks himself going, you know, maybe that's the turn. Maybe I could have done something a little different there. But we'll see. I mean, of note, this is very, very important that Roro does still have that one poke in the back that's unrevealed. I mean, there are things, for example, if it were like a DD Tower with HP Grass, the Swampert, even though it's completely healthy at 100% here, would run into some problems. The Hariyama is a decent check against the DD Tower, but I mean, realistically, you're one flinch away with Rock Slide from just getting there anyway. And again, both these guys dipping low on the time, 10 seconds and 20 seconds respectively, going up a little bit with the chess clock mechanics here, but quickly dipping down again. The pace of play speeding up here because it needs to, and now a crucial full para that Linear is on the bad end of, but again, Swampert comes into a Thunderbolt, and last time, Magneton indicated that it does not have HP Grass. That does not mean definitively that he doesn't, but he certainly represented that he doesn't, and it was a bluff from Roro. He does have it, but the Hydro Pump connects anyway. So the lead is taken by Linear, 4-3 at this point. Couple of his crucial pokes, though, took a beating there. With the Hariyama at 67, and more importantly with the Swampert at 22, there is the possibility that a last poke physical sweeper like a DD Mence or a DD Titar would be able to close this out here. Absolutely possible, depending on the EVs for Linear. +1 Rock Slide obviously would kill the Zapdos. In fact, a regular Rock Slide would kill it. If this Gengar is not bulky, then maybe a +1 HP Flying kills that, or just a Rock Slide from a Titar, depending on what the last poke is. Now Gengar's got chip on it as well. It's going to have to be a last poke sweeper here. And Roro is not going to show it, but if indeed it is a Last Poke Dragon Dancer, there is absolutely a chance, albeit a small one that requires a bit of luck, for Roro to make this comeback and steal this game one in this best of three. And this is the final best of three. They are all best of five after this point. He could steal this from Linear. Here comes Hariyama. There is Ancient Power coming from Celebi, aimed at Zapdos or Gengar. It is not very effective, and he does not get the Miracle Attack raise. Would have been fantastic. Every single stat goes up. 10% chance of that happening, and boy, can it be backbreaking. But the random BS doesn't activate. Here comes Flygon. That's HP, presumably Bug. Flygon takes it neutrally, and it does not have leftovers. However, what it could be is that H-Clat set with Endure and with Salic Berry. And Celebi sneaks in on a double switch against the Zapdos, which is still paralyzed. That could be a good turn for Roro. At very least, it gives him either a free Swords Dance or a free Ancient Power attempt. He gets outplayed, going for Swords Dance, and immediately roared out. The Ancient Power there would have been the better play in hindsight, hitting that Zapdos, who is already a little bit on the low side, but recovering, and is, of course, weak to Rock. At this point, Flygon goes straight for the attack. There is the Rock Slide. Gengar has not yet shown Ice Punch, but if he has it, it could be bad news bears, and it is that H-Clat set. It's the Endure Salic Berry Flygon. Will this be able to turn the game around? I believe he's going to need a critical hit on the Hariyama, but if he can land that, then yes, this Flygon will make the epic comeback. First thing he needs to do is not miss Rock Slide on the Gengar here. 90-10. Oh no. How anticlimactic. He earthquakes into the Gengar there. He thinks there's going to be a switch. He's wrong. He has the opportunity to simply Rock Slide there, and he is incorrect. And that is going to lead to Linear simply making a few clicks and taking down this game one. He's going to be 1-0, and he is one victory away from, I mean, he's already historical in CALLOUS Invitational, but an unprecedented, probably unbreakable record in CALLOUS Invitational history. Linear, as it is the only player to have made money more than once. He has currently done that twice. Everyone else has either done it 0 times or 1 time. But should Linear win this next game, he will be the only player in CALLOUS Invitational to have made money more than once, and he will have done it 3 times out of 4, whereas the next closest guy has only done it once, adding to the already absurd, unprecedented record of CALLOUS Invitational's all-time greatest player, the Thelinearcurve, who has by far the best match record in this tour, who has by far the most financial winnings in this tour, and is on pace here to, I mean, just like I said, set a record that will never be broken. Just leaps and bounds above the rest of the pack. Can this really happen? This is deja vu from years gone. CALLOUS Invitational 3, perhaps a bit of a fluke for Linear, or maybe he had real-life circumstances. He did tell me that he had to play some of the matches while he was still in school and under other non-ideal circumstances, so maybe that factored in, but I mean, who knows? I'm not going to go too far down that rabbit hole. Players other than Linear, of course, have sometimes had to play under non-ideal circumstances at a bad time that doesn't work for them, or at school, or on their phone, or whatever may be going on. Not going to make excuses for any players, but if we excuse CALLOUS Invitational 3, which was a shocking and uncharacteristic 1-2 exit for Linear, we have seen 2 separate times Linear knocked into the lower bracket early on. That happened in both CALLOUS Invitational 1 and CALLOUS Invitational 2. And as you guys are well aware at this point, Linear went on to win CALLOUS Invitational 1 and came within 1 game 3 times, in fact, because he had a 2-0 lead against Dan in the grand finals, and Dan came with a reverse sweep miraculously to take it down, but Linear came within one game 3 times from winning Callous Invitational 2 as well. He was our runner-up. Could this be a three-peat? Could Linear get knocked into the lower bracket very, very early on in this? He lost in round 2 against UD and then almost lost to UD again in the later round 6 rematch, but he lost in round 2 and he has not lost since then. Could Linear do this again? Could he get knocked down into the lower bracket early on and march all the way back into the money or potentially the grand finals? Let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. For him to do that, he has to beat not only Roro, but also, if he were to beat Roro, he would also have to beat Ben Manaphy in the follow-up match. But here's game 2. Linear on the bottom with the Zapdos lead, the exact lead that he had last time, and it's going to be a change of pace for Roro, who has opted to lead with Tyranitar. These are, as you guys well know by this point of the tour, the 2 most common leads in all of ADV. Roro staying in, Linear not staying in. He's opting for the baton pass, and now that he knows the T-Tar's staying in, he's figuring out what it is he wants to pass to. T-Tar staying in, the 2 most likely things here are Rock Slide or Ice Beam. There's also the possibility of a random Thunder Wave or random Toxic. For example, it could be a T-Wave if he is the BS Sandvale spam team. Here is Swampert, and here is DD. Very, very aggressive play from Roro, going for the throat with the immediate Dragon Dance. That is probably setting off the alarm bells a little bit for Linear. Is this HP Grass? Is Roro going for the sweep right here, right now? Anytime a T-Tar starts dancing up, you've got to play cautiously, and that's exactly what happens. Hidden Power, Grass, 52% going to leave Swampert after lefties at 54. Really awkward damage roll. That could be a troll roll for Linear, because it's totally possible that Hidden Power, if it were to happen again, does in fact kill the Swampert. 52 could have been a bare bones roll there. He's going to protect to play it safe. And Roro does feel confident going for it. Now, the Swampert probably out of range. 60% as opposed to 52 from before. Hidden Power again as Dugtrio comes in. That also takes an HP Grass. Not super well, but crucially, it survives. And there's the Earthquake. And Linear takes the lead here. But 2 of his pokes did take some shots there. Swampert is left at 60 after lefties. Obviously, Dugtrio not going to be gaining lefties. But he's going to be alive at least to potentially do his Dugtrio thing at least one more time in the future. The follow-up play from Roro is Spikes. There is no immediate spinner or Magneton coming from Linear. He's going to instead go to Tyranitar here, and we'll see how he wants to respond. If you're switching T-Tar into Scarm, you're indicating that you can hurt it. So he could go for Fire Blast or Focus Punch. It is the latter, and it's interrupted by the HP Ground from the YOLO Scarm of Roro. But there is a surprise Thunder coming down. So Focus Punch Thunder, weird set, as Linear has been running throughout the tour. And there is the knockout on Scarm. Linear at this point has a pretty big lead. He is up on that first game, as you guys saw, and he's now up 6-4 in this game. Crunch and Earthquake respectively. 2 layers of spikes did get down. There are at least 3 grounded pokes for Linear's team, and we don't know the last 2, so the spikes do have value, but it would be very difficult to argue that Roro is not behind right now. He pretty clearly is not off to the ideal start in this game, but he's going to try to make the comeback, and as a pilot, as one of competitive Pokemon in general, I was going to say ADV, but competitive Pokemon in general's all-time greatest competitors and most accomplished competitors, Roro is just as capable as anybody else in the game to make this comeback. So now Roro has a layer of spikes beneath his team. Scarm from Linear did get one down. Don't know the last poke from Linear. And it's going to be Protect on a BP turn back to the Scarm. Linear's got to feel pretty confident that his Scarm is safe here to spike up again, and he's probably right. And Roro is fishing for the Desperation Freeze here. Either that or he doesn't have a water move, but The ice attack here really doesn't seem very exciting. 18% does not seem worth it. He is fishing for a freeze. He realizes how behind he is right now, and he really, really, really needs something like that to catch him back up in this game. So he takes 2 ice beam attempts there, tries to get the 10% freeze. It doesn't come just yet, but that doesn't mean it won't. And that's still going to leave us just where we were in a 6-4 with Linear ahead and Roro needing some kind of BS to catch back up. Even that rock slide, that's got to be a non-CB rock slide. There's no way it would do that little, 24%. That's either a non-CB Aerodactyl or that is a 252-252 defense Scarm, which is a primitive poke. But in theory, it could be that. Nevertheless, we're going for flinches here. He gets one of them, but not the other. And Roar is going to bring out Jolteon, leaving both players with one unrevealed. Jolteon does seem potentially threatening here. Well, there's the proper special wall. I didn't love it until that moment because, yeah, I mean, if it's got HP Grass, that really cleans here. It outspeeds and kills the Dugtrio. The Swampert doesn't like it coming in on spikes and taking HP Grass. Zapdos doesn't beat Jolteon 1v1 unless he has Thunder Wave or gets specific kind of hacks. T-Tower would die. Yeah, the Jolteon seems really dangerous here. And there is a Gengar as well. This is actually a really nice team from Roro. He's got great cleaners in the back. There's a lot of comeback potential here. Between the Aerodactyl, the Jolteon, the Gengar, all of which are very fast and hard-hitting, there's actually a decent chance that Roro, who is down 6-4 right now, could make this comeback. Fishes for the 60-40 Hypnosis, misses it. However, Fire Blast, which would not have been that exciting had it connected, misses as well. And now the follow-up Hypnosis going to connect. Black's going to take a nap. What can you do to it, Gengar? Is it a Focus Punch? Is it simply a Thunderbolt? Do you have something else? Probably just the Thunderbolt here. But yeah, the Jolteon, the Gengar, the Aerodactyl, especially when he's got all 3 of them, have a shot here to overwhelm Linear and make the comeback. This game was looking really, really bleak for Roro, but he's got the right pokes at the right time. The Jolteon in particular is very threatening, especially if this Lax goes down. There is really and truly a shot here for Roro. He's going to opt to switch to the Aerodactyl here. Lax continues its nap. Will it stay in here? Could be Rock Slide, but Swampert could come in relatively safely. It also could just be Double Edge at this point. The Skarmory is very low, I believe. Yeah, he's at 13%. Tyranitar could come in to resist Double Edge, but he would have to step on spikes in order to do so. And there goes the Skarm Sacrifice, catching Roro up at least a little bit. We've got ourselves a 5-4, but this game, like I said, is much closer than it may appear on paper. There's There's a very real chance here for Roro to make this comeback, given what he has left. And Roro might sincerely consider staying in here to Double Edge again. He also may just fodder the Swampert and then follow up with the Aerodactyl and click Rock Slide. That's also an option, but he might very seriously consider staying in and double edging here. And he would lose the Aerodactyl to a Thunderbolt if that were to come down, which it was a Thunderbolt, and he did make the switch. And then maybe the Jolteon or the Gengar could clean. But Roro opted for the more conservative route. He got out of the way. Swampert comes in scotch-free, other than the spikes, of course, on that Thunderbolt. And now it's going to be on him to figure out how to close out this game. Zapdos would not be bluffing at this point. There's no point of HP icing there. That's got to actually be HP Grass, I believe, which he shows for the first time. And now with that information, and yes, we see it is HP Grass, he's going to have to figure out what to do. He opts for the Ice Beam, which at very least is going to soften it up, but would be great for him if he were to find a freeze, which he did not. And the play is relatively straightforward at this juncture. This game not having the timer super low the way that it was last time. It is obviously just HP Grass spamming from Linear. Not going to let that Swampert get another shot off. He's going to protect because why not? But he's going to have to figure out what to do now because another HP Grass is almost certainly coming. It could be a switch to Jolteon if you want to risk it. If it comes in on say a Roar, a Thunder Wave, a Toxic. That would be absolutely devastating, but that's a difficult play for Linear to make. Roro could switch to Jolteon here. It would take HP Grass fine, but he doesn't do that. He's going to let the Swampert go, and that leaves us in a 3-5. But I cannot emphasize enough. I say again, this is far closer than it appears on paper. Roro has the right pokes here under the right circumstances, because remember, a lot of things here are low. The Swampert's only at 60, Dougie 34, T-Tar 30, the Lax asleep and at 61, and there's the 2 layers of spikes down that are going to hit everything other than this Zapdos. There really is a decent shot here for Roro to come back and clean this game. We're going to find out if it plays that way or not. I don't know that I like going to the Jolteon here. I think I personally, if I were Roro, would have gone to the Aerodactyl and would have gone for Rock Slide here. The big X factor is whether or not this is HP Grass or HP Ice. If it is not HP Grass, if it does have HP Ice, then I do understand why we're going to Jolteon. I don't love it, but I get it. If it's HP Grass, I think you have to keep this Jolteon safe. And he's going to go Thunderbolt here, so we're certainly about to find out. There's absolutely no play other than HP Grass here if Roro has it. And he's playing very much like he does not. He's going to Baton Pass out. There's the Ice Beam, and that is a backbreaker. Roro, like I said, I think had a great chance to make this comeback, especially if this is a Grass Attack Gengar. Terrible time for a freeze for Roro. I am hoping for his sake that he thaws. He deserves it. He's had multiple Ice Beam attempts. None of them resulted in a freeze. And there is the insta-thaw. There's the Ice Punch, and there's the Ice Beam back. I'm glad that thaw occurred. But crucially here, Gengar does not seem to have a Grass Attack. He goes Ice Punch again. Maybe he sincerely does not have it. He might have a hard time with this Swampert if he truly can't do anything to it other than Ice Punch. We have seen Hypnosis and Ice Punch only. Might have Thunderbolt, and then the last move, I guess, would be Fire Punch, Explosion, Will-O-Wisp, but evidently not a Grass Attack. He Ice Punches again. He gets Ice Beamed again. Disfavorable position for Roro here. Protect, Ice Punch. Do we have an explosion coming here? Certainly possible. Destiny Bond. And he's going to take the Swampert down with him. So it's going to leave us in a 4-2 situation. Much of Linear's remaining 4 are banged up at this point. And the Dugtrio is outsped by both Pokemon on the other side. And the the Snorlax is still asleep. So this is it. He's trying to set up the game-winning Aerodactyl, and honestly, in this situation, it is not all that wild. There is a real chance that the Aerodactyl gets it done here. In fact, Linear may be resigned to having to get some dodges on the potential Rock Slide that the Aerodactyl may use. It might even go for Double Edge. I don't know what the calc is on the Lax, but after the spikes, he might not even have to dodge Rock Slides. It may simply be Double Edge. I think he has to Rock Slide because of the Zapdos at 75%, who would survive a Double Edge. So I think at this point, Linear is going to need to play to his outs, which is just going to be to avoid Rock Slide here. And now with that Lucky Wake, he's actually got 2 chances here. If he can avoid this Rock Slide, that would win the game. Or, yeah, actually it's going to be all 3. Now, granted, the Dugtrio cannot kill the Aerodactyl, so that one is less crucial, but Self-Destruct from Lax or Thunderbolt from Zapdos would win the game for Linear. So now, yeah, Double Edge isn't good enough. It doesn't beat Zapdos. There is no play here other than Rock Slide for Roro and hope that you get there, and mathematically he should. The most likely outcome in this scenario is that Roro sends us to a Game 3. Scary. I mean, Rock Slide missing is a terrible way to go out of the tournament, but we've already seen that. Cowboy Dan lost to M-Dragon very early on a crucial Game 3 Rock Slide miss. These things happen, and when you use Rock Slide, part of using that move is for all the games that it's going to win you, for all the BS flinches it's going to steal, sometimes you are simply going to miss, and that's not what I want a game with over $200 directly on the line to come down to, but that is simply the way that it's going to be. There is no play here for Roro. I mean, he's calking it, but there's no play here other than Rock Slide, unless he is, in fact, a non-CB Aerodactyl, like I said, in which case he could just sub down to his Pinchberry and then do his thing. Maybe that's what he's thinking about. Maybe he's figuring out, can he sub down to Lychee Berry, and then is Double Edge good enough to kill the Zapdos? And the answer is no, because that would be the same as a Choice Band Aerodactyl on Double Edge. It's just a +1 Double Edge. And no, that is not good enough against a 75% Zapdos. It just isn't. And surely you would play to hit 2 Rock Slides here, as opposed to playing for a critical hit, which he would have a 1-turn window that he needs, right? I mean, mathematically, this is really straightforward. Hitting 2 Rock Slides far more likely than hitting a crit on a 1-turn window. I don't blame Roro for thinking about it. He's got 2.5 minutes on the timer. I mean, if he wants to go through this in his head and make absolutely sure and do everything in his power to not be eliminated here, who can blame him? But it seems, to me, in my feeble ADV Noobcake's mind, oh jeez. Oh jeez. It's a Curse White Herb Aerodactyl. Okay. So it essentially used Bulk Up there. That's cute. The situation doesn't change. He still has to hit Rock Slide. But if he does, we're off to Game 3. So even though it's a weird set and it didn't get there the way that I said that it would get there, the result is still the same. He has to Rock Slide into the Zapdos. Now he can't miss against the Dugtrio. He can just click Double Edge. So it's only the 1 Rock Slide that he needed to connect with. But he did. He also needed to avoid the Self-Destruct crit, of course, which he also did. And now he's simply going to Earthquake or Double Edge or whatever it may be. And we're going to go to Game 3. They're having a little chit-chat. These guys, friendly rivals who respect each other. But bottom line, we are going to a 3rd game. And it is going to have very, very big repercussions. This is for $240+, potentially more. This is for the legacy and record of Linear. I mean, legacy maybe isn't the right term because his bigger picture legacy is already secured. If he were to drop dead right now, he would already, no matter what, be among the very, very best to ever play ADV, if not the best. But Linear would set the record if he were to get there. If he were to make money 3 times in this tour, like I said, other players have only ever done it once, and that would just be absurd. Roro, on the other hand, who just won that game with a really cool team. He was so far behind early on, but had the perfect cleaners in the back to get him where he needed to be. Roro had exactly what he needed in that scenario, and he has done well in every tournament other than this. He's an SPL champion. He's a classic champion. He's won all sorts of tours and has all sorts of trophies and accomplishments throughout his prestigious Pokemon career. But he has not yet won or even made money in this tour in 3 separate attempts. He did not play in CALLOUS Invitational 2, but he was in the 1st, the 3rd, and of course this one, the 4th, and has failed to make too deep of a run until this year, where he is now 1 game away from getting that monkey off his back and finishing in the money with a guaranteed at least 3rd place finish. Linear has not run into Ban Manaphy yet. I don't know if they've ever played in a competitive tournament setting. Maybe they have, maybe they haven't. I don't know. But if Roro were to play against Ban Manaphy, that would actually be a rematch from earlier in the tournament. They played just a couple short rounds ago, and that would be a cool rematch to see. Obviously, Ban Manaphy did win that since he just took his very first loss in the Winners Bracket Finals against Undisputed not too long ago. But the fact that Ban Manaphy won it before obviously is far from guaranteed that he would win it again if they were to play another set, which would be a best of 5 as opposed to a best of 3 with that much money on the line. It could certainly go the other way. So we're either seeing a pretty big European rematch, or we're going to see Linear versus Ban Manaphy for the very first time that I'm aware of, with quite a bit of cash money on the line. Also of note, if Linear were to win, we would actually have winners from 3 different continents this year. We would have Undisputed from the good old US of A, Ban Manaphy representing EU, and then Roro also from EU. But Linear was born in China actually, and has spent most of his life living in Australia. So whether you want to count him as Asian or Australian, I believe he identifies as Australian, but he's both. But whichever way you want to do it. But either way, it would be 3 different continents being represented, and I do love the diversity in this tour. I mean, we have everything. We have guys from more or less every continent. We have white guys, black guys, gay guys, trans people, whatever you want. It just doesn't matter because it's Pokemon. You're either good at this and good enough to be in this tour, or not. And I've always loved that about this tournament. I love the inclusivity of it. I mean, the amount of we had players last year and this year. It's got to be from 10, 12, however many countries. I mean, off the top of my head, we have players, France, US, Mexico, the Netherlands, Australia, Germany. There's all sorts of them. And I love the diversity, like I said. Brazil, I mean, there's a bunch. I'm not going to list every single country in the tour, but I really do love that with all the BS going on in the world right now, and I'm not going to devolve this into a political speech, but just, with all the divisiveness and all the crap going on in the world right now, I really do love that none of it matters in this. Just everybody just plays Pokemon. We're all here for the same reason. People are good at the game, people are passionate about the game, and we put that crap aside and we just come play. And I've always loved that about this community as in general, and about this tour as in general. Now, they did say here that there's going to be about a 5-minute break. They said that a couple minutes ago, so assuming 5 minutes is actually 5 minutes, you guys know how this goes. 5 minutes on the internet is really 10 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever it may be. They should be up and starting in maybe a minute or two. Let's call it 2 minutes from now. It's been real interesting. Close, as always, just peeking back into the game one here, just a 2-0, relatively close. This one a 1-0. I mean, what else can you expect at this level of play? I mean, yes, sometimes people take risks with teams, and they either get there or don't get there, and it results in lopsided things, but for the most part, is anybody surprised at this level, at this stage of the tournament, when a match ends 1-0 or 2-0 or whatever? There's been several sets in this tour that have been just like that. I believe Cowboy Dan vs. Cyber Odin, which is one of my absolute favorite sets of this tour, that was from round 1 or round 2. I don't remember. Round 2, I think. That was a mega treat. That was one of my absolute favorites. I think every single game in that set finished 1-0. It was just so close and such a nail-biter. And then, yeah, I mean, here on the flip side, more of the same. I think that UD and Linear had a bunch of 1-0s in both of their sets. It speaks to the parity, which kind of, I guess, goes against what I've been saying this whole time, how Linear has just been a step above everybody else. But, I mean, what people don't see is that many times Linear has been one piece of hacks, just one miss, one crit, one power, whatever, away from not winning. And he would have been out rounds and rounds and rounds ago, and we'd be telling a different story. Man, I thought I was going to have to kill more time than that. That was not that bad of a break. I can live with it. Here we are, guys. Decisive Game 3. Salamence lead for the linear curve. That's the linear curtains, either or, on the bottom. And it's going to be Roro, McMegan, whichever you prefer to call him, with a Metagross lead on the top. This is the decisive third game, and they're both going to switch, and the switch is going to favor Roro getting his Zapdos in. I mean, it was supposed to come in on the Mence, but it ended up coming in on the Starmie here. Obviously, Starmie not going to want to stick around for this, and it's going to be a free opportunity for Roro. He could BP and set up another favorable matchup. He can Thunder Wave or Toxic in the dark and try to catch something. And he's going to make another nice switch. He's actually going to switch as opposed to BP, which indicates he probably doesn't have BP, into Snorlax, into Blissey here. So Lax into Bliss is a heavily Lax-favored matchup. The only way this can go really badly is if there is a counter. But Linear are going to get some tempo back here by coming in on the Focus Punch, taking nothing with his Gengar, And now he has presumably a decent match. He could go for Will-O-Wisp. He could... Yeah, that's probably it. I mean, I guess he could fish for Hypnosis or Focus Punch and the like, but I think Will-O-Wisp is the most likely play from Gengar here. He could also switch. I mean, he could just be afraid of a Pursuita or an Umbreon or whatever in the back, and he is going to show some discipline and get out of the way. It is just Metagross coming in, which is interesting because that's not something that wants to come into Will-O-Wisp either. So we could be looking at either a Pursuit Metagross, which is weak but does exist from Roro, or it could just be a team that's really not a fan of Will-O-Wisp Gengar and just doesn't have a great switch. It could have been like a Psychic meta or something. The meta did have lefties, or no? Or no, we're dumb. The meta didn't stay in and take the hit. It might have lefties. We don't know yet. Just making sure you guys are paying attention. But yeah, the Zapdos has lefties, of course. That came in and took it. And there's an attack race for Linear, which he has lefties on his. And he's going to get out of the way and go to Bliss. Here comes a Thunderbolt, and it's going to take it just fine. And Bliss presumably is going to force out the Zapdos here, which, like we said earlier, I believe does not have Baton Pass, since he did opt to switch earlier as opposed to BP, and there's no reason to do that in that situation anyway. So you would BP there if you had it, so I would say that he does not. It's going to be the Lax against the Meta here. We know that it's not Choice Banded, so Meta is safe here from anything other than an Explosion, which, I mean, he could blow up here. So far, the Metagross is the only Rock Resist that Linear has shown, so if that is true, and it may not be, there could be another Rock Resist in the back, but if this is the Rock Resist, meaning it's probably a Protect meta, I wouldn't blow up here. 3 unrevealeds for Roro on what clearly seems to be an offensive team. I would not blow up. That leaves you very vulnerable to an Aerodactyl or a T-Tower or whatever it may be in the back. If this is your only Rock Resist, you've got to protect it. And it's the first pause of the game here. They're both figuring out what to do. The issue with just auto-protecting here, if you're Linear, if he even has Protect, is that you don't want to give the opponent a free Curse. It's totally possible that if both players have picked up on, if Roro has picked up on, hey, this might be a Protect meta, he might take a shot and Curse here on the obvious Protect turn, and that would be strictly advantageous for Roro. The other thing is he could simply switch on a Protect turn. If it's going to be a Protect, he can go to, say, Zapdos here. Now, that one's not as bad because the meta can simply Protect again, so we would actually get 2 turns of lefties in doing that. But the nightmare scenario, the really, really worst case scenario here, is Dugtrio coming in for Roro on the Protect turn. The Metagross would be dead in that situation, and obviously that's not where Linear wants to be. So on this seemingly simple, innocuous turn here, where most of us would just click Protect and think nothing of it, there's actually quite a bit to think about. And this is why Linear is here and better than us, and why we do things like click Protect and lose games. Wow, he's taken quite a bit of time. He's taken 1.5 minutes and change to think about this here. He wants those lefties, obviously, but he does not want to walk this into a meta or let the Lax begin to curse up and really have a hard time dealing with it. And indeed, it does not look like he's got a great switch. He's going to go for Explosion. He takes the calculated risk here. He's got to have another Rock Resist in the back if he's doing that. Maybe he sees the Lax and goes, man, I really don't have a great answer for that Pokemon. I just want it gone. It's a calculated risk. I want to keep my meta. I don't really want to lose meta, but maybe he really is that threatened by the Lax. Or alternatively, maybe he was trying to catch a switch into a bulky water there. Maybe Linear was trying to catch a Coon or a Swampert or something along those lines on the way in that he doesn't think he can break. Maybe he's like, hey, my Salamence can go wild here if I can catch the Swampert or the Coon in the back. I really want those pokes gone. Coon in particular doesn't seem like an issue between Starmie, Blissey, and the Gengar. I think he can handle Coon pretty well. Now, granted, if neither player brought Sand, it's that much more difficult, that much more bulky, but Coon wouldn't be what I'm worried about. Same with my Milotic. Swampert, on the other hand, especially maybe a more offensive-leaning Swampert, could potentially be difficult for Linear. But I think that more likely than not, the lax itself, not a hypothetical bulky water in the back, was the intended target for Linear. So he took a calculated risk, and I believe he did land on what he was trying to land on, which I think was the lax. So this results in Swampert. Man, there is no Swampert. Not yet, anyway. There could be in the back. Salamence, not to be confused with Swampert, against Zapdos here. The Intimidate doesn't matter because we think the Zapdos doesn't have BP, so he's not going to be passing the attack reduction to anybody. The Zapdos is usually faster in this matchup. Not always. Could be a really fast Mence, and it could be a bulky Zapdos with no speed investment or sitting at 244 or whatever. But usually Zapdos is faster in this matchup, and that means Salamence has to watch out for things like Thunder Wave, HP Ice, maybe Toxic here. The most likely scenario is that Linear just switches to Bliss, but again, he's thinking about it. Bliss is the obvious thing, but I mean, he doesn't want to get tempoed on. He doesn't want to switch to Bliss and simply enable Roro to get free lefties or go to Metagross or go to a hypothetical fighting poke in the back, get like Breloom in on Bliss. Here's Dougie trying to catch Bliss, and lucky it's Rock Slide instead of something else. Linear stays in and goes for it. Rock Slide connects. Dougie obviously not the tankiest poke in the world, but as it happens, it does resist Rock, so even though Roro did not get the result that he was fishing for there, which is to catch the Bliss, he does survive and lives to fight another day. Rock Slide, 56%. Dugtrio takes that better than he takes most attacks, and he will still have that Dougie for later. Now, it does matter if it is a bulky Doug that's designed to, like, always live a Blissey Ice Beam, for example. That's now out the window because he's so low. So he would have to kill the Bliss in one shot. But overall, I think that that was not the worst calculated risk for Roro. It just means if he's going to pick off the Starmie or the Blissey, he has to make sure that they're actually properly low first, as opposed to try to pick off the Blissey 1v1 by going blow for blow. And he's going to catch the Blissey again with the Dugtrio, but I don't know if this is as good now. I mean, if it's a non-Ice Beam Blissey, I guess, if we know for sure that it's just like a Seismic Toss, Wish Soft-Boiled T-Wave Bliss or something like that, I don't know. It would have to be a pretty specific set here, or Roro would have to find a crit. Otherwise, he's just going to do, let's call it, I don't know, let's go best case. Let's say 60%, and it's probably less than that, but let's say he does 60 with his Earthquake, and then he just dies to Ice Beam. I don't know. Is that worth it? There's no sand. I mean, Blissey will just get lefties and probably soft-boiled up later. I don't know. I don't think I would go for this if I'm Roro. I mean, granted, he made this switch with this play in mind, right? I mean, why else would you double the Dugtrio here? What else are you trying to catch? So, I mean, he must have made this play with Blissey in mind, but I don't know. Beat up he goes for here. And assuming that assuming that he's being honest with his nicknames here, didn't he just reveal his whole team by doing that? He showed Tyrannosif, which is obviously Tyranitar, and I forget what Lagron is. Is Lagron Swampert? I don't remember what Lagron is, but didn't he just reveal his entire team by doing that? Aren't you supposed to use nicknames when you have beat up? Aren't you supposed to call your T-Tower whatever? Isn't T-Tower supposed to be nicknamed Gengar? Isn't Swampert supposed to be nicknamed Milotic, etc.? I mean, don't you want to not reveal your whole team? Well, he revealed the whole team. So, Heracross coming in, so effectively we have full teams revealed for both players, and now Heracross is staring down a +1/+1 Tar. This is a difficult situation. Linear's timer dipped down to 20 seconds, now back up to 30. The Heracross can one-hit KO here, certainly with Brick Break, possibly with Mega Horn as well, but the T-Tar, on the other hand, with simply one flinch or one crit, could put this Heracross and Linear as a whole, who does not have a bulky water, unless you count the Starmie, which I do not, into a world of hurt. Brickbreaker Megahorn, pretty obvious here. I would consider, if I'm Roro, going to Zapdos. He's going to be kicking himself, I think, with that play that he made on the Blissey. It just didn't seem worth it. I got so caught up in the beat up, I didn't calculate 10, 16, 10, 16, 10, so a lot. He left the Blissey at 32%, but he lost the Dugtrio, which would have been a fantastic response to this Heracross here. However, as it turns out, Heracross doesn't have a Pinch Berry. He's got lefties, so the T-Tar here can take it out. He can just click Rock Slide or Earthquake here, and the Heracross will be done for. If that were to occur, he goes Rock Slide again. Linear Focus Punch is praying for either a Rock Slide miss or an over prediction DD, and Roro has got to be kicking himself there. He could have simply clicked Earthquake or HP Bug or anything other than Rock Slide, killed the Heracross there, and been in a decent place. He is going to miss the 90-10 Rock Slide at a terrible time, and it's going to result in his +1/+1 tower being killed by the Focus Punch. Awful time to miss Rock Slide. Roro finds himself now with his back against the wall. He's not out of it. It's 4-3, but man, did that miss have major repercussions. T-Tar would have been alive and would have gotten one more shot at least off against the Starmie or against the Salamence. Always the possibility that he randomly crits or randomly flinches. There's all sorts of things that could have happened in that scenario, and it would have been real bad. But he does not manage to hit that Rock Slide. Awful time to miss, and Linear now with the 4-3 lead. Roro, gutted by that miss, is going to have to find a way back in the game, and indeed the Dugtrio sacrifice is effectively undone. There is the soft-boiled. Dugtrio seems to have died in vain. I don't know that I would have gone for it, like I said, if I am Roro there, but I get why he did. He brought this beat-up set, which there was already one poke down at the time, which is the Lax, so it's already worse than it would have been. If you're bringing this set, then you're going for it. He took a chance, it didn't pay off, and now he's going to have to find a way. Roro is going to have to show why he is one of Pokemon's all-time best competitive players. Can he find a way back in? There's the explosion taking out Starmie. 3-2 situation. What is the last for Roro? He, of course, is not going to show it here, but it's got to be something that gets through the formidable combination of Salamence, Gengar, and Blissey. I think his best bet in this situation, not that he gets to pick at this point, but I think the best case thing that Roro could have here is probably simply an Aerodactyl. I think there are no rock resists on the other side, and I think there are things that don't love rock slides on the other side, and you just need to get there with some Paraflinch BS. What's he got? Kingdra, the last poke. Kingdra in the back. Could this get there? Ice Beam takes out Salamence. Gengar could die here. So could the Blissey to a crit Hydro Pump. In fact, a regular Hydro Pump could potentially, with a max roll, be good enough. Max modest Kingdra with the Stab Hydro Pump, with the Rain. Could this get there? He's truthful with all of his nicknames other than the Kingdra. Roro is brilliant. He makes it look like he forgot to disguise his nicknames. He intentionally told the truth on every single one other than Kingdra in the back. Roro is a fucking genius. He lulls both Linear and I into a false sense of security. It is not the Swampert. It is not Lagron. It is Kingdra in the back. Could this win the game for him? He has multiple opportunities here to fish for the game and match winning critical hit. He finds the Ice Beam freeze. Blissey in trouble. gets out of the way because it has to. There's the Hydro Pump knockout. It's only Blissey against Kingdra here. Rain goes away, fishing for another desperation freeze. Can Roro find it? Ice Beam again. Seismic Toss. He will live one more of those only. Two more opportunities. Ice Beam. No. Seismic Toss. Final opportunity. Freeze will be necessary. Does not get it. And there is the Seismic Toss knockout. Linear with the KO. He is going to make money in this tour for an unprecedented third time. No one else has done it more than once. Linear has now officially done it 3 fucking times. Our top 3 in the yet to be determined order is going to be Undisputed, Ban Manaphy, and Linear. The latter two, Ban Manaphy and Linear, will face each other next in the third place match. And Roro makes a deep run, his best ever Callous Invitational finish, but he is going to be out on the money bubble in 4th place. So close and yet so far. He is not going to make that cash money this year. Great set. Lived up to my expectations and hopefully yours as well. We are now in the best of 5 stage of the tournament. Linear and Ban Manaphy for the 3rd place match and additional cash money and the right to play against the winner's bracket champion Undisputed is coming up next.